Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Today we're going to take a little bit of a detour from our normal news updates and sit reps, and we're going to just talk about, well, what's going on and the fact that it's seeming that there's some pushback internationally from this globalist Great Reset agenda. We're seeing several countries basically push back. They're protesting. There's even places where they've stormed the Capitol. No, I'm not talking about January 6th. And we're starting to see a little bit here. It does seem that it's happening more in other places than here. But to be honest with you, the whole Great Reset Agenda 2030, Agenda 21 plan is moving along a little faster in a lot of these other countries. They're a little bit ahead of us on implementing their plan. So it's probably why, at least one of the reasons why we're seeing that. So I want to talk about that today. A lot of this is just going to be speculation, okay? But basically from the perspective of if the pushback continues to happen, is there a chance or an opportunity for this kind of Great Reset agenda to be postponed, put on hold, or even, scrapped altogether because they realize that they just can't go through with it? We'll talk about that here in just a minute. I want to mention another prepper meeting. These keep coming in and I love it. If you are hosting some type of preparedness homesteading meeting and you're open to having new people come in, this is open to the public, or you're wanting to start one and you're wanting to get the word out, shoot me an email. You'll find my email address down below in the description. Make sure you put something on the subject line that catches my eyes, that you're wanting to promote some type of preparedness meeting. But we've got another one. It's also again here in Missouri, up in Osceola, Missouri. That is approximately halfway between Springfield, Missouri and Kansas City, Missouri, for those of you that don't know. But Osceola, Missouri, that's the end of this month on the 31st. It's a Sunday. I believe it starts at 2 p.m. If you want more details about this meeting, again, there is an email that should be popping up below on the screen. Email that person and you can get more information about that meeting. And that's the 31st of July at, I believe it's 2 p.m. is when the meeting starts. But again, that email that popped up, certainly if you're in the area or driving distance, email that person. And these meetings are, if you're able to, if they're in your area, and I'm having people email me all the time asking if there's something in their area. And I don't know all the meetings. I'm just, I don't have that kind of reach. But I sometimes am aware of some of them, and so I'm able to kind of help people connect. But if you want to promote your meeting again, please shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to do that here on the channel. So let's get on with this. I'm sure many of you have been seeing the stuff going on. The riots from the farmers in the Netherlands, which has kind of overflowed into France, into Germany, into Poland. There's people in the streets pushing back against this Paris Agreement and the zero carbon emissions, deal that have been, these plans are being implemented in these countries. And we've seen pushback from that. Of course, we've seen, protests and violence and riots here in the United States, but a lot of it isn't necessarily pushing back against this kind of globalist agenda. But we are seeing some people. I mean, I'm certainly seeing more and more people kind of waking up. I mean, it's not everyone, most certainly. There's still a lot of people asleep. And as this channel grows, and I've watched a couple of other YouTubers that are saying the exact same thing, that they are getting a lot of naysayers, a lot of people saying, oh, you guys, you think you're all crazy. You think things are happening. You think that, farmers are selling off their crops, or, the ranchers are selling off their cattle, or, if drought's really bad, this is just cyclical. This just happens. It's just normal. Just get over it. Quit telling people to stock up. It's not a big deal. But the fact is that there's certainly a lot of people that are starting to wake up and starting to realize that something is not right. And we're seeing that, of course, around the world. Here's some footage here in China. And the best of my ability of the research I did, apparently these are people, Chinese citizens, that are protesting and are trying to rush into the Bank of China, the official state bank of China. There have been reports in China of bank runs, so this fits right in with it. Here's another one. This is in the Netherlands, and the report on this building that you see on fire is that it was a factory owned by the Bill Gates Foundation in the Netherlands that produces synthetic meat. Now, I cannot 100% confirm this, okay? But to the best of my research, that's what is being told. It's interesting because the story is that this is being done by some of these farmer protesters. And what's interesting is up until this, I have not seen any evidence that these protesters have done any type of damage to buildings, that they're not, it's not like the BLM where they're going in and burning buildings down. They're just protesting. But yet this one building, the one that was apparently owned by the Bill Gates Foundation, it's a factory to produce their synthetic meat, was attacked and burned, at least to the apparent story. We've seen a lot of this happening more and more in places all around the world. Of course, there's Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is kind of the top of the list. Their government has pretty much crumbled. I mean, their economy has collapsed. Their prime minister, it appears that he's trying to leave the country. There's reports that he was last seen headed to the international airport there, most likely trying to flee the country. They've stormed the capital. This is the part that, and I'm not going to belabor this point very long. It does make it feel like that a lot of this is kind of planned. Or maybe these people in Sri Lanka just watch a lot of American news and they're trying to emulate things. But the storming of the presidential or the prime minister's palace and the capital there at Sri Lanka looked real eerily similar to what happened at the January 6th ordeal. There was no violent scene that I could see. They were sitting around in couches, walking around, snapping pictures with their phones. There was pictures of them laying in the prime minister's bed. There was even a photo of someone apparently taking a shower in his personal shower. Again, I haven't quite made up my mind on what all that is, if it's just people emulating what they see in American news, or if there's some kind of orchestrated pattern going on here. The point to this video, though, is that living under the assumption that these protests and this pushback is legitimate, that it's organic, that it's not some kind of controlled, orchestrated deal, which it very well could be. But for the sake of today's video, we're not going to focus on that. Assuming that this is all legitimate pushback, the leaders have to see this. I mean, leaders here in America certainly are watching what's happening in Sri Lanka. They're certainly watching what's happening in the Netherlands and other places. They're privy to at least as much stuff as you and I are, and more. So they're most definitely seeing this. At some point, are they thinking, maybe we're pushing a little too hard? Maybe we need to pull back just a little bit. Maybe this is just too much. Or did they plan for all this? You know, is this going according to plan? They knew that it was going to be this way. The people that sit in their behind the curtains, closed off rooms that orchestrate and plan all this, was this part of their plan? You know, we can speculate, but we can't really know. I did see something today that Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, was saying that gas prices aren't high enough. They need to be higher. You know, we need to see gas prices higher. And according to them, it's not so much that they want to hurt your pocketbook. It's that they're wanting to give you an incentive to get off of fossil fuels, which of course is going to hurt your pocketbook. The point is that it in every aspect that we can see, it appears that they're continuing to push forward with their agenda. But at what point will it be something that they would question their own agenda, that maybe they've pushed too far? I do remember, I believe it was a year ago, last May, so it was a year, almost a year and a few months ago. I think it was in May, April or May. And there was an article in Newsweek, and I reported it on here a couple of times last year. And it was an interview with someone inside the White House, and they were specifically talking about the this kind of stuff, the regulations and the lockdowns and the mandates and all that kind of stuff. And they asked this White House insider if the president was, wanting to push further. Was he wanting to see things happen like in Australia, if you all remember back what was going on at the time, or in Canada and places like that? This Washington or White House insider said, yes, he does. And in fact, the president's wife is really pushing hard for an Australia-like lockdown, but the president is hesitant because he wants to wait until the people have gotten to where there's enough people that are for that. So he wants to hold off just long enough to try to, hopefully that this brainwashing that's basically been done, this media campaign to try to convince everyone that it's the right thing to do, works on at least enough people so that there isn't as much pushback. So it indicated to me, at least in that interview, that they're at least aware of that. They're at least aware of the pushback. We saw what happened in Canada. It did appear that the pushback from the Canadian truckers did seem to cause Canada to kind of back off a little bit from their draconian policies up there. But the fact is that in every way it looks, everyone is still pushing forward with this globalist agenda. My personal feelings, because I'm sure many of you are going to wonder what my personal feelings are, is that they have planned for this. These people, they've been working on this kind of stuff for decades. They have put an immense amount of thought and planning into this. Some of the world's most powerful and smartest people are involved in all of this World Economic Forum stuff. It was once said by a reporter that the top 1% most powerful people, that is the World Economic Forum. The people that attend the World Economic Forum, that's who they are. And so when you have a group of people like that have that kind of clout, that power, that influence over pretty much everything in the world, you know that they have planned very extensively for things. So my belief is, my personal opinion is that they have probably planned for this, and it could potentially slow down their plan the more the pushback there is, but I don't think it's necessarily going to make it go away. That doesn't mean that it's not good. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't push back, but what it means is that I think we're entering another stage of their plan. We've seen the stage of their plan for the last year and a half, 2 years, where people are disgruntled and some are going along with it, but most people are just dealing with it. They don't like it, but they're dealing with it. And now we're in a stage where people around the world are starting to push back against it. And I think that that's just an indicator that we've kind of crossed another threshold of this plan. And again, I think a lot of these countries are a little bit ahead of America, and it's been that way for decades, really. All the socialist, social welfare, progressive agendas typically happen in, say, Europe, a few years or even a decade or so before they happen here in the United States. And it was the same way with the whole, health crisis stuff. We saw all the draconian stuff happen in Europe first, and then it kind of made its way to the Americas. And so I suspect it's going to happen the same way. We're seeing it happen now in Europe, and that means that we're kind of behind it. But I don't think that means it's not going to happen. Again, this is not a discouraging type of video. I don't want this to be where people are discouraged that there's no hope of winning against this. There's no hope of pushing back. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I don't think it's necessarily going to deter them too much. I think we're going to continue to see their agenda push forward. All the stuff that's happening here in America when it comes to food and farming, there's always an excuse for it, whether it's drought or whether it's supply chain or whether it's inflation or whatever it is. But it's all kind of interesting that all of the damage that's being done to farming and the supply chain, food, energy, fuel, all those kind of things all fit pretty well within the zero carbon, the net zero plan that the White House has put out for America to reduce all of these areas down to a certain number, to reduce it down by 25% or more by the year 2025, which is just a few years away. So they're wanting to reduce, you know, the emissions from farming, the amount of fuel consumption, the amount of you know, coal production, all these kind of things. You know, the amount of chemicals, fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, all of that kind of stuff. They're wanting to reduce it down by at least 25% by the year 2025, and another by 30% by the year 2030, and then by, you know, down to pretty much a zero. I'm sorry, by 50% by 2030, and down to about zero by 2050. So everything that's happening, whether it's fuel, natural gas, electricity, coal, you know, chemicals, fertilizers, food, farming, cattle, all of that that's taken a big hit, and we're seeing it reduced. We're seeing a reduction in all that. Well, it's all kind of fitting with their plan. So whether all of this is planned or not, it's certainly working out in their favor. So I think that we're going to see this, and I think that it's also a sign. It should be kind of a trigger for you that we're kind of entering another phase of this. That it's gone on long enough, and it's gotten bad enough that we're starting to see pushback from people, and that should be an indicator for a lot of you that your preparations, whether it be stocking up food or becoming more self-sufficient or getting to a more safe place to live, to building community, taking whatever appropriate actions that you feel that you need to do in your life and your family to get yourself more prepared, it should trigger you that, you know, a little click, a little light bulb go off, that you need to take it much more serious. Because I think, and I could be wrong, but I think we're entering kind of a next stage of this because of all this pushback. So folks, it's just a thing. We've got to keep doing this. I understand there's the naysayers, and I don't care anymore. I mean, if if you're a naysayer, that's fine. If you think I'm crazy, you think this is all ridiculous, then you probably shouldn't be watching this channel. You know, there's plenty of other channels out there, and there's all kinds of other entertainment that you can do. If you don't like what you're hearing here, no one is forcing you to watch this channel, okay? But the point is that we need to start getting pretty serious about our preps. It very well could see a day within the next 6 to 12 months, and could be a lot sooner than that. I'm being very generous by saying 6 to 12 months, that the bulking up of preps, being able to go out and buy 50 pounds of flour, 50 pounds of rice, 50 pounds of beans, you know, that kind of stuff, may not be as available in the next 6 to 12 months. We could see a day that happens. So certainly do that. And then all of your other preparations, like I said, skills, developing skills, becoming more self-sufficient, production of food, and the growth of community. These are all some really important things. And then, of course, most of all, your spiritual walk. Getting on your knees in prayer and opening that book and reading it, and learning, because that's our guidebook. That's our blueprint for life. And realizing how serious this is and how we need to be more prepared. Folks, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.